Justin, 2 days out from the game, Cameron Bancroft and Michael Neser, both of those guys, or either of those guys, still in contention to play? How are you sort of thinking about
We haven't named the 11 yet, but I'd say those two will be 12th and 13th men, yeah.
And possibly, I guess, Michael Neser, you really liked what he brought to the table in England, and perhaps the pink ball might suit him. And
yeah, maybe. I like what they both brought to the table, actually. I think it was no surprise the way we selected our Ashes squad. They're both outstanding. I remember with the first, when Steve Waugh hadn't been in the system hadn't been back in the team for some time, he came to the first training session and he looked at me and he said, "Who are those three blokes?" I said, Marnus Labuschagne, Cameron Bancroft and Michael Neser. He goes, how good are they? They're the future of Australian cricket, aren't they? It's because of the energy, the passion they bring to it. They cut their legs off to play. They've got amazing work ethics. They're great blokes around the team, and they're very good cricketers. So, they all deserve to be in the squad, and that's, hopefully we've selected a squad that can only beat Pakistan, and then we'll look at New Zealand, but can help us keep building a really strong Australian Test team.
How hard is it to think about, winning games now, but also building for the future? Is it kind of, if you can do the latter, it's good, but the first is the prerogative?
Yeah, I remember talking to Alex Ferguson about that, and he said he always had one eye on now, but always probably an eye 4 years down the track as well. But it's a balancing act, no doubt about that. I guess that's the art of coaching and the art of selection is making sure, and a lot of the times we've also lived on the philosophy in Australian cricket. We pick the very best team for today, and that'll look after tomorrow or down the track will look after itself. So there's a bit of an art to it, or a balancing act. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't, and that's how it goes.
Justin, you've spoken a lot about rotation of fast bowlers and how blessed you are to have so many. Just how do you deal with Nathan Lyon? He bowls so many overs and doesn't seem to have too many. There aren't too many spinners knocking on the door right now. So how do you take care of him over the next couple of years? Yeah,
I guess it's a bit like Steve Smith and David Warner, who play all forms of the game. He's obviously a world champion player, world-class player, and we've got to look after him as best we possibly can. We know how important he is for us, and as I said, we just keep managing him the best we possibly can.
Justin, back here. At the start of last summer, Australian summer, there was a fairly daunting load ahead of you. There was the India series and a World Cup, then an Ashes. Do you come into this summer in a sort of more relaxed frame of mind, or knowing what you're dealing with? Does anything change?
Oh, not really. No, we're starting to get obviously. The only thing that changes is we've played a lot of cricket. It feels like a very different preparation this week than a lot of preparations they had for the first test in Brisbane before. And the reason for that, we've had 4 or 5 months of cricket in England. The boys have played Sheffield Shield cricket. We've played some T20 cricket. They've played some one-day cricket. So they're up and running, which is a real positive, I think, coming into the summer. But there's definitely a distinct difference in the feel of the group and the preparation. So we're more relaxed. I think we're just really well prepared. We're really well. The boys have match hardened and ready to go. So that'd be the only difference I feel, really.
Justin, is there a sense that you've established a core group of players out of the Ashes and through the summer that perhaps you didn't have last year, a sense of who your best players are and who should be playing in these games? You think, leading into the Ashes, there's quite a few people involved in that. Bat off or bowl off, whatever they were involved in.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd say about that, Pete, is that in Hampshire, I think we had 25 players there, 25 Australian players, and what that shows is the great depth of talent in Australian cricket. And we've always been very lucky to have that depth of talent. The trick is, though, or the toughest part is to try and reduce 25 into 11 or 12 or 13 or 14. You've heard me say that many times over the last 18 months, that it's easy to pick 14 or it's easy to pick 12 even. Reducing it to 11 when there's such a depth of talent, that's a really tough thing. And we find out all the time you can't please everybody, and everyone's going to have an opinion of the Australian cricket team. But trust me, it's hard to reduce it. And in a perfect world, I think we're getting a lot closer in the white ball team, no doubt about that. And I think we're getting closer in the red ball team as well. And that's what we're always aiming for, a really settled group of guys. who can work together towards a goal, whether it's the Test Championship or whether it's the T20 World Cup or in the past the 50 over World Cup. Or so you got a group of guys who can work together towards achieving a bigger goal than just winning the next Test match, if that made sense.
And one more thing, are you confident about Starkey's bowling if there's no reverse swing available?
Yes.
Is that something he's worked on? Because
100%.
that's been an issue, hasn't it?
It has in the past, yeah, and there's been talk about that. What I'm most impressed with Mitchell Starc is that we talked to him, and it was I still remember one of the conversations at Hampshire with the white ball. There's a few. I think Punter was there and I was there, and we're saying, Mitch, if you hit that length more often, you're actually a scary commodity because you come from so high, you're so fast. If you bowl a bit full or a bit short, or you for really good players, you let us off the hook. But if you keep hitting that length more regularly, you are a nightmare. And what's most impressed me his white ball cricket's always been world class. What's impressed me is how hard he's worked. And he worked really hard with Troy Cooley throughout the Ashes when he wasn't playing. He bowled beautifully in that fourth test at the Old Trafford. The ball didn't reverse swing there, or I'd say no, if at all. But he swung the ball, and he bowled really well. I just love his development, that's what we see in a lot of the players. I love Mitchell Starc's development, his maturity through that period of not playing 4 of the 5 tests where he'd always played. He got 5 wickets in the last test against Sri Lanka, or 10 wickets, sorry, in the last test against Sri Lanka. I just love his development. I can't wait to see him bowl on this test match.
And that length around the toes, is it? Is that what you mean?
Say again?
That length that you're talking
No, the opposite actually. He can bowl that at will. He can bowl Yorkers at will. He can bowl a good bouncer, getting more consistent on hitting that first class length. And he's never going to be a Philander, or he's never going to be, in a sense, Josh Hazlewood is going to bowl at the same ball every ball. He's going to be a bit over. That's his strength. But the more consistent he can at hitting that back of the length delivery, the 5 or 7. I'll let the bowlers talk about whatever the meterage it is, but hit that length more regularly. He is a nightmare to face, and he's getting better and better at it. And for that, we're excited.
Justin, we saw Dave Warner batting really well in the T20 matches. He was absent for the last Shield match, but how's he tracking now heading into this Test match? How do you feel like his prep has been? Yeah,
he's going great. It was the same leading into the Ashes. He was the most runs in the IPL, most runs in the World Cup. Had a poor Ashes. He's done brilliantly in the T20. He got 100 first Shield game back, which is a great sign. He loves batting in Australia. He loves batting, basically. So I can't wait to see him play well. He when he simplifies his game and he stays still and watches the ball, keeps his mind clear, then we know there's no more destructive player in the world probably. So we're looking forward to him having a great summer.
As a former left-handed opening batsman, do you sort of like to get in the nets with him and do some specific work with him?
Yeah, we're pretty similar batters actually, I reckon. So, I used to pride myself in reverse switch hitting and smacking them back over the head. But look, there is similarities. Obviously, we're short left-hand opening batters. That's about where it finishes. But yeah, look, we talk a lot about batting. We talk a lot about cricket. We talk about matchups. And I love working with him. I love having him in the team actually. And I like watching him go about his business. He does it differently than many others. That's why he's one of the champions of the game. But as I said, I know how important he is to our team. That's when I had no doubt after the Ashes that he'll be in the first test of the summer.
Justin, Pakistan coach Misbah Ul, he has spoken a great deal about Steve Smith, and he thinks that he will be their most important wicket. So as an Australian coach, are you also targeting any Pakistan batsman or thinking that he will be the key wicket for Australia?
No, we look at all of them. We're very respectful of the Pakistan team, and I watched them bat at the Optus Stadium last week, and they've got some very, very technically correct batsmen. I'm not going to point out one. They're very good batting side. We know that they run hard between the wickets. They're very busy. We can't give them any width because we know how strong they are square of the wicket. We can't get too full because they all hit them, smack them through the leg side. So we're going to have to be on our game, but we learn great lessons with the Ashes, and hopefully we can keep the Pakistani batting order under pressure by doing what we do really well.
Justin, how close to this final squad were you before that 18 game, and what did you think when effectively Australia's second 11 was 9 for 57?
Yeah, look, we were pretty close. I was really upset or really disappointed for Will Pekoski. Obviously, he's a terrific young talent. We were talking a lot about him and his short and long-term future. So I was disappointed to see that he wasn't available for selection. What it did show me is how good the Pakistani bowling can be. We've known that historically they've got outstanding fast bowlers. They've got a world-class leggy. We're going to have to be on top of our game, no doubt about that. So that's what I thought. I was disappointed for the guys that they had no one really banged the door down for them. I obviously know them all personally now. But I did say leading up to that game that wouldn't just be picked on that game, it'd be on previous, a whole range of things. So I just came to realise that we're going to have to show Pakistan great respect.
Yeah, Jay, I'll just touching on that, I guess, and even the Ashes and the fact that we're here now, that you look through that top six, Australia's got a good record at home, but there's still a lot to prove there individually. If you run through the top six, I guess, apart from Steve Smith, not just this week, but over the next few, it's a pretty big chance for them to kind of prove a few doubters wrong and establish themselves. Yeah,
I'm not saying about proving doubters wrong. I don't think that some of them might use that as motivation. We're number 5 in the world in Test cricket at the moment, and there's a reason for that. One of them is that we don't score 300 plus in the first innings enough. Our batters are very aware of that. We understand there's spotlight on our batting at the moment, and the boys have got to embrace that. And if they do, we know they're talented cricketers. We have to get better with our batting. No question about that. They understand that, and that's part of the responsibilities or privileges of being selected in the top 6 in the Australian Test team. We're not going to shy away from that. It's no secret. We know we've got to keep improving, and I'm confident we will.
Is it as simple as scoring hundreds? It took a long time last summer to is there a difference between getting an 80 and 110 when it comes to winning a test?
Well, it can be. I think it comes down to partnerships and guys scoring hundreds. Generally, as a rule, batsmen are judged on if they score hundreds or not. And they're all aspiring to that. That's what we're programmed to want to score hundreds. The more hundreds we score, more times we'll win games of cricket, I think. So that's something that a few of the boys are determined to get great at.
Probably only got time for a couple more guys because we've got the team photo of Giles and another one. Justin, James going home yesterday. In terms of, I guess, the growing awareness all the time about the mental health of your players, was that the sort of decision that might not have been made a few years ago in terms of keeping him in camp or going home to spend some time with the family?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not saying that's so much to do with mental health. That's more to do with he'd bowled 48 overs in I think the last Shield game or 2 Shield games ago, and we saw it then, unfortunately, as an opportunity to maybe use that week as a bit of a deload for him. Get home, stay away from bowling, do a bit of bowling leading up to the next Test match. It was really disappointed he's not playing that. He knows that. We're disappointed that was his third strike. So we're disappointed for him, but we're more disappointed that he chose to get reported.
And just in terms of his, or not just him, but in the last year or so that you've been in the job, what do you know more about how to, I suppose, communicate and reach guys to know where exactly they're at between the years, I suppose, as opposed to before you were coaching?
I've learned a lot over probably however long I've been coaching. You see it. I'm dealing with young men all the time, so I've hopefully got a pretty good feel for how guys are going. But it's a complex issue. It's like concussion. That's built up. There's a really clear protocol on concussion now, and I'm really hopeful. In a really complex matter of mental health, we can get to a point where there's really clear protocols, and we can all, there's no stresses about it. There's no indignity in, saying I'm not okay, and then we work out how guys can return to play, whether that's in a shorter term or a longer term. I'm sure that's what we're all searching for, is to make sure that we get that protocol right. Because in the end of the day, and I said it to one of our players today, in the end of the day, the health of the players and the health and wellbeing is much more important to me than another game of cricket. You know, we saw it with Steve Smith, the concussion. We would have loved Steve Smith to play the third test of the Ashes, of course, but it was so clear that he wasn't right. It was an easy decision, and it's much more important we look after him than it is. You know, we lost a tough game, but it was a no-brainer, and I hope we can get to that point with mental health as well.
Thanks. Sorry, mate. Travis Head, just a two-part question on him. Does he bat 5 or 6, depending on where Wade bats? And how has he handled his dropping in the last test of the Ashes since?
Well, he's handled it. You know, he came back, he scored 100, but he's been reselected. He's no orphan. We've all been dropped, and what you want to see is how guys fight back from being dropped. Every Australian player, I don't think Gilly was dropped, was he? I think Gilly might have been the only one. I think Sir Donald Bradman was dropped early. I think every player gets dropped, and then you see if they come back stronger. Joe Burns was left out of the Ashes, and he's for different reasons, he's back now playing. That's what we want to see. It's no different with Travis Head. He's fought back. He got a really good 100 one Shield game ago. We know how talented he is. He's great around the group. He was named vice captain for a reason. He's a terrific young bloke. And how he's going to fight back, we'll see over the next 5 days, and then we'll see it over the next 5 months, and then we'll see it over the next 5 years. It's just part of being an Australian cricketer. So he's fought back well. I'm not sure whether he's going to bat 5 or 6 yet. That's still to be determined.
JL, you just touched on him. Bernie has been sort of the man that wasn't with the Ashes, fought back. There's the core group that Pete spoke about. What's he brought to the group, and not scoring 300 plus in your first innings? I mean, that starts and finishes a lot of the time with the openers, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's got a very good first innings record as well. Joe Burns, very good. And I know Davey likes batting with him. Not that he doesn't like batting with other people, but I know he likes batting. I've just, every now and then his name has come up over the last little bit. So, and I obviously have some understanding of how important it is for the openers to get on really well and work well together and understand each other. So we're looking at that combination. Again, it's no secret. I've said one of the things we need to do is get our top 3 cemented and get that as strong as possible, because it's a pivotal part of winning games of cricket. So I'm hopeful the 2 odd couple will get out there, and like we've seen in the past, will form a really good opening partnership.
Justin, just a squad selection question. Do you see a way back into the Australian side for Usman Khawaja? Because
absolutely.
He's got a better record than a Cameron Bancroft, and who hasn't made a lot of runs this summer.
Yeah.
I just wondered the reasoning behind that, a decision like that, given Usman's record in Australia, and how that phone call with him perhaps went if you made one to tell him he wasn't in the side.
Yeah, I've spoken to him. Yeah, we do that usually. But Aussie's 33 years old. He's got a great record here. He missed out a few times. He knows what he has to do. In this instance, probably don't need a 33-year-old like Aussie not playing the Test match. That's what it comes down. He's a very good player. His improvement has been, he got himself so fit and strong. I still maintain one of the reasons we didn't win the World Cup, he hurt his hamstring in the semi-final. I've got great admiration for Uzi. I think he's a fantastic player, and I'm sure when he finds a bit of touch, then he'll certainly be pushing really hard to get back into the team.